Welcome back to the Better Project podcast, where our mission is to crush the stigma surrounding mental health by transmuting awareness into actionable steps. This week, we are joined by my good mate, Mr. JSR, Joshua Suli Ruka, for our yearly podcast. Every year he jumps on, and this year was different. This year we got really deep on 2022 and the year that it was. The setbacks, the lessons, and a lot of the stuff that got brought up, especially for Josh, he hasn't spoken about before. You know, him dealing with anxiety to the point where he was prepared to live in his car, to use the gym to shower and for shelter if needed. I never knew any of this about Josh, and for him to come on the podcast and express what he went through last year and how he's overcome that, you know, dealing with weight, getting to his heaviest weight, to now getting back in the gym and smashing it and really just getting his life back on track. Super grateful that I was able to hold space and make him feel comfortable opening up about that, and myself opening up about letting go about blame and resent around my father, becoming a father myself, and all the lessons that came around that. So yeah, this episode was really deep, and I'm sure a lot of you will be able to resonate with what we spoke about today. But before we jump in, I simply ask that you just press the follow button on whatever platform that you're listening on right now. Believe it or not, that goes a long way to helping us reach the goals that we want to reach and get bigger and better guests on, which are going to add more value to you. So yeah, if you could do that, that would be much appreciated. Forever grateful for everyone's love and support for the podcast. I hope you enjoy. Let's dive in. JSR, welcome to 2023, my man. Welcome to the Better Project podcast studio. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Right, it is crazy. We spent half an hour fixing some stuff up.
Yeah, technical difficulties.
Yeah, but that's fine. That's all part of the journey. Not a lie, I've been looking around and I've been real proud.
Thanks, Dad.
I'm really proud of you. Looking around, looking at the work that you've put behind the scenes. I think a lot of people don't know exactly what amount of work that you put into the studio. So I am humbly grateful to be here. Really excited to get into this podcast.
You mentioned the word grateful. Brother, you know how we start these podcasts.
Oh, love them.
What are 3 things that you are grateful for today?
The first one I would say is you. So today, if you guys didn't know, we went out and spent some time together. It's crazy because we done it last year.
It's been 12 months since we've seen each other.
It's actually been 12 months since we've done this. And so I think today I've been really grateful for the time that we spent together. Went to the gym today as usual. We do some sort of like exercise.
Bro, that workout. You know how long we trained for? Or trained for? 2.5 hours.
2.5 hours, man.
And I think only 45 minutes of it was actually training.
Yeah, the rest was just talking.
But grateful.
No, grateful. It's actually, the last time we caught up was like this time last year, or probably like a bit earlier. And yeah, today I was real grateful for the conversation that we've had, and just hearing your story and what you've been going through the past couple of months. Real deep personal conversations. So that's the first thing I'm grateful for. The second thing I'm grateful for is the gym. So I ended up sharing a story to you, like to Nikki, that which I think I'll probably share like as part of our reflection for today, is the fact that I had gained a lot of weight. If you look at the video from like this time last year, I was a bit slimmer. And so, I've been really grateful for the gym because it's actually been, I guess, a home, like a separate home from home.
Yeah.
And going to the gym this morning with you, it really enlightened me.
How so?
I think, when you're going through like a lot of stress, everyone goes through stress, right? But I think when you go through a lot of stress, like we tend to look at, I guess, easy ways to go for that quick fix.
Mm-hmm.
And so the great thing about going to the gym is that there is no quick fix.
Nope.
You know, when you're trying to lift heavy, and which we did today, crazy enough, or for me I did, and when you're trying to go heavy, it's a real humbling experience when you think that you can lift a certain weight, and then you know the weight itself starts to humble you,
Mm-hmm.
and you start to realize that you're not as strong as you think you are.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing I love about going to the gym is that, you know, there's times where I think that I'm doing well and I should be getting anything and everything in this world, but when I enter that gym, it's a humbling ground for me. So that is what I would say is why I'm so grateful for the gym, because whether I'm going, you know, really well in life, or on the flip side, going through, you know, stress, anxiety, it's like my humbling ground that keeps me centered. So yeah, that's the second thing I'm grateful for.
Yeah.
And the third thing I'm grateful for is, which is very different, is pain.
Okay.
Yeah. So the reason why I'm so grateful for pain is because, first of all, it's something that you can't forget,
Yes.
but at the same time, it's probably the best time that you can learn something. When you're going through a real painful experience, it's something that you can remember, but it's also something that you can learn straight away, instantly. And a great example would be, you know, when I'm at the gym today, for example, I end up lifting like my heaviest with the help of Nikki at the gym.
I didn't do much.
Yeah, yeah. It was literally just there, just like literally standing there, just, yeah, not even holding anything, but
You're just too strong, bro.
just being there in support. I appreciate that, bro. So I went for, I think I've done 117.5 kilos bench, and I've done it for 3. And even though I started to feel a bit of pain, like good pain, by the way, there was something that I learned today, and it was the fact that I could lift much more heavier than I thought I could.
Mm-hmm.
But there was pain there.
Yeah.
There was pain. There was a bit of struggle, but there was also a bit of doubt in my mind as I was going for that lift. And so bringing it back towards pain, you know, I learned this from, he's probably my go-to guy now, which is Alex Omozi. And he talks about, like he had a therapy session with his psychologist. Yeah, psychologist. And he had learned that you can learn them, like you learn the most when something got to do with like hyperactivity, or when you're hyperactive, or when there's like when you're going through something that's real painful. You can learn a lot from those experiences. And so yeah, that's the reason why I'm grateful for pain, because it's the moment where you can gain a lesson, and that's something I'm learning right now.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, those are my 3 gratefuls.
Love it, bro. I suppose I should probably share my 3
Yeah, sure,
gratefuls.
but I would love to hear you, man. What's your 3 things that you're grateful for today?
Having a day to myself. As we discussed at the gym, you know, being a parent, working, all that kind of stuff. I haven't really had, like, I have a couple of hours here and there, but I haven't had a full day just to myself to do anything that I want, and I can't remember when. So super grateful for that, and I'm grateful that I get to spend half of it with you, man.
Appreciate it.
The second one, focusing on my life force, which I'll discuss throughout this podcast, but working on the physical point of that this morning, the relationship with you throughout the day. Today, this podcast is going to be the relationship with myself, a lot of the reflection piece that's going to come out here. So really just focusing on those 3 areas. I'm super grateful for that, because it's helping me, well, it's putting me in such a positive mindset and helping me turn up as a better version or the best version that I can be right now today, for not only myself, but for you and for my partner, my daughter, for everyone around me. So super grateful for that. The third one, you being able to hold space, bro. Like we just had lunch and we dove deep into relationships, which is a big thing that I think a lot of men don't speak about.
Yeah.
If we're talking about women, it's usually about other things, right?
Yeah.
It's not
If
about
you know.
yeah, it's not about actual deep relationship, connection, love. Not many men speak about that. And for you to be able to not only hold space, but also question me and really get me thinking about my own relationship and where I see it in the future and how I see myself within that relationship. I'm forever grateful for you, man. Like, you're the only person that I can actually truly open up about that stuff. And I know there's gonna be no judgment, but you're also gonna hold me to a high standard. You're gonna keep me accountable and you're gonna question me on things as well, man. And you do such a bloody great job of that. So grateful for you, man.
Grateful, man.
Don't
No,
cry. Don't cry. There's
no,
some tissues there,
literally, bro. Some tissues there. No, can I say I'm real, real, like, I'm grateful, like, to hear that, because I hold space for people intentionally, but I'll never forget the amount of people that I did hold space for, and they took it for granted. You know, there's a lot of people, and so one thing I always say to myself is that, like, I would hold space for people, whether I get a good reaction or not, or whether they feel appreciated or not. But always thinking about there's always going to be that one person that's going to be like fully grateful, like, for it. They're not going to take it for granted, and I'm happy that it's you.
Grateful. We're 10 minutes in and people are probably thinking, wow, these guys are just sitting there expressing their love for each other. Is there something deeper going on here?
There's nothing.
Is it? Or no?
I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe. Who knows? But I think the reason that it's so awesome that we can be open and express our gratitude towards each other and for other things within our life is if both of us right now can sit here, two men sit right here at this table and speak about that and open up and be vulnerable, why can't anyone else do that? You know, and I'm a big believer in, one, actions speak louder than words. Two, vulnerability breeds vulnerability. So by us being vulnerable in a way and expressing how we feel and expressing our gratitude and our love, you know, the listeners listening to this can be like, wow, okay, fuck, Josh and Nick just did that. I'm going to go do that with my friend, my partner, or I'm going to journal that. So, man, it's awesome that we can do this, eh?
Yeah.
And moving on to the reason why I wanted to record this podcast is, one, I think it's a tradition now that we start we start the year doing a podcast.
Or end the year.
Yeah. Two, I think it's awesome for us to come together and reflect on 2022 and share some of our biggest lessons and what we've learned throughout the year, because it's been a big up and down year for both of us. And I'm sure there's so many lessons. We've already spoken about some of them and expressed them with each other. It would be awesome for the listeners to hear some of that, because I'm sure a lot of them will be able to relate, and maybe some haven't even reflected on 22 yet. So from them listening to this, I'm hoping that it inspires them to actually take some time to themselves and reflect on the year that it was.
Yeah.
Because there's so much lessons to be learned, but we're never going to know them. We're never going to understand them or ourselves if we don't actually take the time to reflect. So I want to start off by asking you, what have been some of your biggest lessons from 2022?
Yeah, I appreciate you asking that because it's probably something that I've been thinking about. I haven't been like fully. This is probably the first year I've actually haven't taken out time to reflect, but I've just been in open. I've been in open, I guess, reflect. Like I've been in open reflective mode on a consistent basis. So whether I'm going to work, whether I'm waking up, whether I'm, at the gym, I'm just constantly reflecting. But I'm glad that I got invited to this podcast because it actually gives me like a place to, or I guess you allowing to hold space.
It's an outlet for you to
Yeah,
able to
yeah,
express.
yeah.
Like you can be in your head, but for you to actually sit with someone to actually express it, for you to hear yourself talking about it,
Yeah,
it kind of can shift different perspectives as well and can it allow you to think differently about it as well? Because you may think about it one way in your head, but as soon as you express it to someone, you may question it. You may think about it a different way, or someone may give you a different perspective and make you think, oh, wow, maybe I look at it in this way, or maybe there's another lesson to come from that I didn't pick up on. So yeah, it's awesome that we can sit here and talk about this.
yeah, yeah. And I'm thinking about it now. 2022 for me, I I think I've been seeing some posts like of other people out there that's been doing their like, um, now this is the end of 2022, and then they show their, um, I guess their their reel. So like
Their
kind of like the
highlights,
highlight reel,
yeah.
yeah. And I don't know, I've always been, and I was talking to my partner about this recently. Was I always like doing things differently, and one of the thoughts that I was wanting to do was actually, instead of me sharing to people all the things I've done well in, was actually sharing to all the people the failures that I made. And not only because it's a good hook or a good like way to draw attention, is by doing something different. But I think also one thing I believe in is that you learn more from the losses than your gains. You learn more from the games that you lose as opposed to as opposed to the games that you win. And 2022 for me was quite interesting. I had gone through. There's a lot of things there's a lot of things I went through behind the scenes that a lot of people didn't know, and I'm grateful that they didn't know about it because now after 22 had finished, it's like now I can actually go out there and share to people what's really been going on behind the scenes. And so, yeah, 2022 for me was tough, just like every other year. But I think like throughout 2022, it's probably the most, I would say, emotional. Yeah, emotion. It's probably been the most emotional that I've been behind the scenes
Yeah. So
without showing emotions.
what was so emotional?
So there's a lot of personal things that's going on. Like in my, well, I want to say my relationship, but like my family. And I didn't realize that it affected me until probably probably 6 months later. So to give you a bit of context, so at the time, or probably like this time last year, I was living at home with my family. I no longer live with my family now. Family's good. Like I love the family. I have good connections with my family that I was living with. Like this time last year, but now I don't live with them. And so, long story short, moved out of home. Wasn't feeling comfortable at home. Like if I had to give you a bit of if I had to paint a picture, just imagine yourself, coming home Oh, sorry. And just imagine you feeling anxious on coming home, because that's exactly how I felt. There was a lot of anxiety built up for me coming to home. I remember one time I was doing 75 hard, and I was at home, and I had this inbuilt anxiety of not getting my 45-minute workout in, and I was just wanting to stay at home. And so, obviously, the question is why? Like, what was going on? And so, the story behind that was we were behind rent. Um, Now, to give you a bit of context, the people that are living at home is my mum, my little brother, little sister, and me. And my father's not in the picture. I've got an older brother and a younger brother. They moved out, and so I was in a position where I wasn't aware that my mum was struggling, and the the owner of the house that we're living in was in front of us. So the landlord was right in front of us, and um, we were living like behind him, and so the reason why I was going through this inbuilt anxiety situation of me not wanting to come home and also to leave home was because number one, I knew that we were struggling, and second of all, the very person that was like chasing up on our bills and stuff was living right in front of us, and so 2022 for me, like that was probably the biggest part of 2022 that affected my life, like in general, or holistically, like as a whole. And it was something that happened behind the scenes. It wasn't something that was on social media. It wasn't anything that I done on social media that caused me to go through such a troublesome time for me. But it was just the fact that I didn't see home as home, and so yeah, I'll probably start off with that. Yeah, that was probably my biggest lesson from there, from 2022, was that the best way to go through and overcome anxiety is to not only seek out for the truth, but to accept the truth. And that was a hard thing for me, is that I wasn't like I was struggling to accept the truth that we're behind rent, and I was also struggling to accept the fact that we're living in a house that we weren't paying for, and we didn't have the sufficient funds to pay for it, and we're in this like kind of stagnation of like we don't know what to do. So yeah.
Was there, you mentioned living in a house that you're not able to pay for. Was there a level of, shame and guilt which was causing that anxiety?
I would, yeah, I would say yes. And the reason I would say that is because, so think about it from the family, I guess, hierarchy or structure, um, or the relationship at home. So it was my mum, then it was me, and there was my little brother and sister. And so when you're in that space, or in our family, like if you're the eldest there, you kind of put your hand up. I think it's even in Polynesian culture too. Like if you're the eldest one there, like you kind of put your hand up, and you automatically take the role of leadership.
Yeah.
And so when I had found out that we were behind rent, I did feel a bit of shame and a bit of guilt, because I felt like I could have done more. And so, yeah, I would say that I felt quite guilty. I feel quite like shameful that I couldn't help.
So you moved out of home to get away from that situation. Were you running away? Right now, do you feel, was that the best decision you could make? Because, for me, when that anxiety arises, I now see it as a sign of something that you need to deal with, right? looking at the situation, you know, you weren't getting your workouts in because you didn't want to leave the
Yeah,
house, essentially.
yeah. And it was funny enough. There was also other stuff.
Yeah.
Like it was like I was like instead of me coming home, I'd spend more time with my partner. Um, you know, I would stay out later. Like I'm an adult, so I can stay out, but
Yeah.
usually I'd be at home spending time with family. I would also like, let's say for example, I'd wake up, you know, go to like, because back then I was doing like my morning routine, and I would always try and go to the gym as early as possible.
Yeah.
That way I can, you know, everyone's sleeping and stuff. And then I would also, like after that, I'll try and like get other stuff done, or I'll go to the shops, or I would, you know, try and make a day of it.
You are avoiding
Yeah,
the
avoiding
situation.
Yeah, avoiding the situation. And I realize now that I built so much anxiety, even though it was something that I couldn't control. It wasn't my part to play, but I felt like I automatically put myself in a position where it's my responsibility.
It was a narrative that you created in your own head,
Yeah,
which spiraled out of control.
yeah, like so much so that which I'll probably share a bit later, that I ended up becoming like my heaviest weight. Like, yeah. So yeah, I'll say that. Yeah, I was like, to answer your question with the running away, I believe, like in myself, that I made the right decision. And it was crazy. I remember like having a conversation with my mum. I had just finished work, and I was walking. I walked. Like obviously, I didn't walk home, but like I finished work. You know, jumped in my car. I only lived like 5 minutes away from work, and I remember just having a real deep breath. I ended up taking a real deep breath, because what I was about to say to my mum, I knew that it was going to be like a shape shifting like kind of conversation, and so I knew it was going to change. Like something was going to change, and so I remember I finished work, came in, and had a conversation with my mum, and I ended up bringing out the truth, and the truth was like, hey, like how are we going with rent? And she told me the truth that like, you know, she's been struggling to pay for it, and I was like, all right, cool. And then I end up letting her know that I'm gonna move out, and I was probably more concerned about her reaction, but I was also more so concerned on the fact that I didn't know who she was going to rely on, because a couple of years ago it used to be like my older brother, me, and my younger brother, and like I'm the only oldest one there, and so I think it was really hard on me to like approach her and have that conversation with her, and to let her know that like this is the decision I'm going to make, which is moving out. And so I don't believe that I was like running away from the situation. I felt like this was my time to accept the truth, and accept the fact that this isn't my responsibility. That was my, I guess, my truth. The truth that I had learned was that it's not my responsibility. Although, and it's crazy because I know that there's a lot of like, now we're getting real deep here, okay? So I know that there's a lot of like Pacific Islanders, PIs, people like myself, and Maldives, by the way, who go through this, who go through like, you know, when you're the eldest, like you have to automatically carry the responsibility of, you know, looking after not just the, like not just your siblings, but also the parents. And I think there are so many, there's so many PIs, and I'm only talking about them because like I'm one of them, and I feel like there's other cultures out there, but I think the culture I can relate to the most is my own kind. And I know that there's a lot of Pacific Islanders out there that are struggling right now, with money. They're struggling with their identity. They're struggling with the fact that they can't look after themselves purely because they've grown up in this culture where instead of you focusing on yourself first, it's all about focusing on everyone else. Period. It's not about focusing on everyone else, then focus on yourself. It's more about just focus on everyone, but rarely we get taught how to look after ourselves. And it's crazy because when I started getting into like the personal development journey, which was probably back in probably end of 2019, which is crazy. It's actually the time when we started the Better Project. And I remember I jumped into this journey of personal development, and I was having this like, this love-hate relationship with my personal development journey because I didn't believe in, like, for example, Robert Kiyosaki talks about, paying yourself first. And as a Pacific Islander, that is a sin. That is a sin, bro. Like you paying yourself, you going out there and buying, let's say, packet of chips first before you pay for your family, like that's a no-go.
Yeah.
But I understood the concept as to why Robert Kiyosaki talks about paying yourself first, because obviously you want to pay yourself first in so that you can pay for others.
Yeah.
And for us, like our Polynesian, family, whānau, a lot of them don't understand that. And it was hard for me to walk the walk rather than talk the talk. It was harder for me to actually practically do that with my family because, little things like, paying myself first, like, for example, getting a haircut. Getting a haircut every 2 weeks is something I've been doing for the past 2 years. And I still do to this day. And a lot of people probably just like, agree to disagree. Some people just cut their hair when they want to. Other people cut their hair every week. I used to do that. But going back to like, the Polynesian like family out there, all the, children out there that's suffering from this, like I suffered for it for long, but it wasn't until that moment where I accepted the truth that it wasn't my responsibility, where I actually had full control of my life, where I actually said, yeah, Mom, it's time for me to go. And so her reaction, which I haven't really shared yet, but I'm going to share now. She said that it was okay. And she said that it's fine. I believe that you'll do well. And after 6 to 7 months of being away from home, she's been right the whole time.
Yeah.
I've been at my best now. I've been at my best now being out of home than where I was in home. And yeah, I couldn't be grateful. I couldn't be grateful for. That's why I shared at the start about pain.
Yeah.
And why I'm so grateful for pain, because I've come to understand that I've learned so much from the pain that I went through, like last year. And it's crazy because like a lot of people will be like, bro, like it's just home, It's just like, what, you're just feeling anxious at home. It's like, yeah, but I started to realize that home for me was a big thing. Like I really value home, and the fact that I was so anxious to go home. I was so anxious to leave home at certain certain spots just because I was creating this narrative in my head that wasn't true. It's a big lesson that I've learned now, that if I do feel a bit of anxiety, just figure out what's the truth. Is the story that you're creating actually true? Because you'll find out, like, 8, 9, 9.5 out of 10, it's not true. And it's just an inbuilt story, inbuilt narrative that you're creating in your head.
Yeah, and that anxiety got you thinking about where you are in life right now and what you need to do to step into who you want to be. And for you, that was moving out, going on your own path. And I've done the same this year. It's been very, in the beginning, it's scary, right? Your home is your home. You're with your family. You don't have to pay all these bills and have all these responsibilities. But for me, I had to do it. Having my partner and then my baby under the same roof as my parents and my brother, like, it was causing that tension. And in a way, it was causing me anxiety because I'm trying to, build this podcast, have a relationship with my partner, with my daughter, with my parents. Yet there was tension between all of that, and I felt like I couldn't be who I wanted to be, and it was time for me to step out of my comfort zone. I speak about that a lot, and I speak about this journey as a podcaster. All started from me taking that leap of faith out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
And for me, moving out of home was a massive leap out of my comfort zone. And I expressed this to you earlier, but I'm super grateful for my partner for saying, that's it.
Yeah.
We're moving out.
We're going, yeah.
In a way, it was kind of like an ultimatum. Like, we move out together or I'm moving out. And it's like, oh, fuck, all right.
That's right. And you know what's crazy that you say that, because it got to the point, and this is the thing I love about pressure. The one thing I love about pressure is that once it gets to a point where it has no choice but to burst, you're gonna make a decision no matter what. Like, it's gonna be A or B, and if you don't make a decision, you're gonna have no choice but to make a decision. And that's exactly what happened. Like, at our home, is that we end up getting like. Well, first of all, I want to be quite blunt here that I think our landlord could have had a better, I guess, management, process on how to, like in terms of eviction process and ensuring that money comes through, had a contract, because we didn't have a contract. And so, this is a good lesson too. It's like, if you're going to do anything, make sure that it's all binded.
Yeah.
Make sure it's all written down, because that's one thing that you can't lie to, is anything written on paper. And so, going back to what I was saying, like, it got to a point where there was too much pressure. My mom was constantly getting calls from our landlord, and our landlord was getting pissed off. Our landlord was constantly calling me, and I was getting frustrated, because it's like, it's not my problem, it's my mom's problem. But at the same time, I don't want to put too much stress on my mom, because she's obviously a single mother, and father's not in the picture. So here I am trying to be the superhero of the family, and it just got to the point where I was like, I just can't do it.
It just compounded.
Yeah, it just kept compounding, and then that's when it ended up bursting to the point where my mom said, "Yep, that's it. We're leaving." And so, funny enough, I ended up moving out of home 2 weeks before they ended up moving out completely.
Yeah, okay.
And so I was probably the smarter one, because I ended up getting all my stuff out, so it was a lot easier to pack.
Yeah.
To move. But once we had moved out, that's where I guess the freedom or the truth came to life.
What I've come to understand is we build so much pressure within ourselves to make that big decision. But how much of a relief is it as soon as you make the decision? It's just like, why did I create so much stress, so much anxiety, so much pressure, when in reality, it wasn't that hard of a decision to make. It's either you're staying or you're going. And for me, as soon as I moved in here, I was like, wow, like this is going to be a good decision. And what would it be, 5-6 months down the track, best decision ever. Like, we're sitting here in a fucking studio.
Studio. Yeah.
I would never have had this if I stayed at home. I wouldn't have had the family unit that I have now. The own space for my daughter, own space for my partner, no tension. The relationship with my parents and my brother is a lot better, because we're not under each other's noses 24 hours a day. Sometimes you just got to say, okay, I'm making this decision, and go for it. If it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But you're never going to know unless you actually go and do it. So my advice to anyone, especially for this year, if there's a decision that you need to make, or you feel like you need to make, just make it. Don't overcomplicate it. It's going to be what it's going to be. There's going to be lessons and blessings to come from anything that you do. But don't stay in a situation just because it's comfortable, because you're never going to grow. You need those pain points within your life. As you mentioned before, you're grateful for pain, because what comes out of pain? Growth.
Lessons.
Yeah. If you're not pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, or pushing yourself in the gym, like for me when I was running, bro, that was so painful. but I loved it to a certain
it's like
degree.
a sense of enjoyment.
Yeah,
when you get
it's a love-hate relationship because that was my time to see what I got, to see how much resilience I have. The amount of ideas and thoughts that went through my head during that time because I was pushing myself through the pain. It's like a self-reflection as well.
Yeah.
But you need to be doing that. And for you, like, it's fucking awesome that you made that decision, because I know for both of us, it's been probably the best decisions that we made in 2022 was moving out of home.
Yeah.
And for you now, like, what's life like since moving out? I know you're back working at Woolworths, which is, you know, for a season within your life, and you've changed your mindset and your perspective around that as well. You're living with your partner. You seem a lot happier, but you seem a lot more switched on, a lot more focused, a lot more driven now. Like, you know, okay, this is the direction I'm heading in.
Yeah.
I want to hear your take on it. Like, how has it been for you?
Well, first of all, I appreciate you sharing that. it's really good to hear it from someone else. But yeah, so like ever since like, before I do share that, I do want to share a bit of like a part of the story that I didn't actually get to share. But when I said to my mum, then I'll come back to answer your question, because I think this is a really great part of the story that will get people thinking that this is really like the end all be all. Like I literally said out, like I'm out. So I remember having a conversation with my mum, and I told her that I was gonna move out, and I said to her that I was gonna move out like with my partner, which is you know, the same partner I'm with right now, with Grace. And I remember I actually lied to my mum, and I told her that I was gonna move like with Grace, but I didn't talk to Grace about it. And so you think about that, it's like, okay, why did you lie? Like, why did you lie about it? And the reason why I did is because the actual place I was actually gonna move in was in my car. That's how like big it was. And I remember that night I had told my mum that I'm gonna move out with Grace, and you know, I'm gonna live there. And then I already knew that she didn't know, and I already knew that I wasn't gonna tell her. And then I remember, I think it was the next night, I hung out with Grace, and I was full quiet. Didn't say anything, and she asked me like, oh, because obviously, you know, me being the guy that I am, I'm always like talking, I'm always talkative, and if I'm quiet, there's a problem.
Yeah.
Even my mom said that too. She knows me quite well, and I remember I was like pretty much spending time with Grace, and then she's like, "Hey, is everything all right?" And I just started bursting into tears. And the reason why I was bursting into tears was because I realized that I was gonna tell Grace the truth, and I told her the truth, and the fact that I said this to her. I said, "Oh, I told Mum that I was moving out," and she's like, "Oh, okay. So did you find a place?" And I said, "No. I actually told her that I was moving here." And she's like, "Wait, what?" She did not know. And then she's like, "Oh, like, so when are we gonna talk to you about it?" And I was like, "Well, the thing is, I wasn't gonna tell you, and the reason why was because my actual plan was to live in my car." And then that's when, like, she got so angry at me. First of all, not because I lied, by the way. Which, funny enough, like, I thought she would be angry at me because I lied to her. But she was angry in the fact that I was actually gonna do that. I was actually gonna sleep in my car, and that's when she told me, she's like, "No, I'm not gonna let that happen." And I just said, "Well, it's either that, because I don't have the sufficient funds to move out. Obviously, inflations are rising. People's rents are increasing, significantly. The only way that you can actually find a house to live in is with a housemate." And so I looked at my bank account and I looked at it. I was like, "Oh, I can't afford." Funny enough, I can't afford to pay for rent, but I can afford to pay for any time. So this was funny enough. This is actually my plan. My plan was I was going to sleep in my car, and I was going to go to the gym, and I was going to use the gym showers.
Yeah.
And if I ever needed like a place to sleep, if I couldn't sleep in the car, I was going to sleep in the gym. Because if you think about it, like it's the 24/7 gym.
Yeah.
There's barely anyone at night, and so my initial plan was to go into the change rooms, and just build a little fort there, and sleep. So that was literally like that's how serious it got.
Wow.
And so Grace, like she literally took me in, and she said, "No, I'm not going to let that happen." And I had to humble myself because one of my plans was I wanted to learn how it really feels to live on your own. And I was like having this kerfuffle with myself, this tension of trying to make that goal a reality. And the fact that the situation I was going through last year didn't get me to that position, it kind of cut me up, to be honest. But just going back to that story, I thought I'd share that story because that was exactly my plan. Like, if you wanted to know my plan wasn't to go live where I'm at now which is with my partner. But my actual plan was to live in a car. And although I didn't do it, just having it as a thought, that was my first plan. Like it really hits me on because I look at myself now and it's like I don't know how I would have lasted, but that was my plan.
Yeah.
So it makes you really think that the pressure really got to me to the point where I was thinking about sleeping in the car. And big shout out to anyone out there that has done that because I knew for sure that it wasn't going to be easy. So that's what I thought I'd share that story.
Oh, appreciate it. Like, you haven't shared that with me before.
No. Well, the only people that knew about it was Grace.
Yeah. Okay.
Like not even like my mom knew that.
Wow.
She still believes that the whole story was going to to live with Grace, but
do you think you ever tell her?
Oh, she'll probably find out now when she listens to this.
You listen?
She listens. Like my mom is literally the biggest supporter. Like
really?
For all of us. Like a bit of I guess background story about my mom. Like she obviously was a single mother, and she had 5 kids, and she literally would. Like, she would go to, like, when I was growing up playing footy, obviously I'm the old one now, so I have my older brother, so I'm 20, I'm turning 25. That's crazy.
We're old, eh?
Yeah, we're getting old. So my older brother's 26, or turning 26 this year, I'm 25, and my brother's turning 24, around August, and because I'm the older one out, when we used to play footy, like, we used to play, like, home and away, if that makes sense. So, my brother, older brother, younger brother used to play at home together, and I used to always play away. Yeah. And my mom would always try her best to get to the games. And it's all the little things too. It wasn't just the games, but like when I do podcast or if I'm on a podcast, she'll listen to it. She'd always try her best to, support. So I know that she's probably listening to this now, being like, wow, I actually found out the truth, but I know that she forgives me.
Well, shout out to JSR's mum. Sending you love and gratitude
Thank you, Mum.
Raising this amazing man right here. I wanted to jump into another, I guess, lesson or moment that you mentioned at the beginning of this podcast around your weight and gaining all that weight.
Yeah.
And from my understanding, it stemmed from that situation of being at home and the anxiety there, which led you to getting to your heaviest weight. What was that journey like? Because for me, I never understood how someone could get so big. Yeah. Because I would not want to be, I wouldn't say fat, but overweight or obese. So I don't understand how people can let themselves get to that extent. But from my understanding, a lot of the times it does come from poor mental health and traumas and insecurities that stem you to, I guess, go to food for some sort of comfort, or eating disorders where you feel like, oh, I'm too skinny, so I've got to eat more food. There's so many different elements of it, and to a degree, I went through a similar aspect with trying to gain weight.
Right.
To the point where I've shared this before, but I took steroids because I thought that that's what I needed to do. Take steroids, eat heaps of food, train. Yeah, I gained weight. Fuck, that's a weird bug. I don't know if you can hear that. But yeah, I gained weight, but I never felt like I was myself. Like I was me, but I wasn't me.
Yeah.
So I can understand it from, a skinny person trying to gain weight, but I've never understood someone,
From a normal weight going
from a
from
normal
like
weight
overweight.
going to overweight to extremely overweight.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, share to me and share to the listeners a bit about that journey and what that's been like for you.
Yeah, so a bit of context for the listeners. So right after I moved out, I was in this season of like just going through the motions, and so obviously I moved out of home, and that was a bit of a different, I guess, environment for me for what I'm used to. So I wasn't able to like wake up and have the freedom to. Well, I still had the freedom to go to the gym and stuff, but at that time I was just like work mode because I'd moved out and because I obviously had rent to pay and stuff and bills. That kind of got the better of me, and so I was just on this like work mode, like just focusing on that. But what ended up happening was I started to go. I started to focus on convenience, like things that were convenient to me.
Yeah.
And at that time, because I felt like I didn't have much time, even though I did, I already know that like I had the time to, you know, eat the right eat the right types of food and stuff, but I didn't, and I chose not to. And I ended up so probably this time last year, I was weighing around 120, 125. And then I ended up putting on so much weight that I went from my 120, 22 to 140, 144, 145. And yeah, it was so uncomfortable.
Yeah, you mentioned you couldn't even tie your
Yeah,
shoelace.
yeah. So yeah, I'll share that story. So I didn't realize how heavy I was, and this is the crazy thing about like getting to a point where you're overweight is that you don't know, and it's so funny because you think about it, you're like, how can you not know that you're like overweight? And it's like, oh, because what happens is like you're doing the same habit over time, and you're doing it like repetitively. You know what I mean? You're just constantly doing the same thing.
You create that feedback loop, and it's just like becomes a
it's just a habit,
negative habit.
Yeah. So you're just like eating, and the only time that you kind of become aware is when like you see some sort of cue or some sort of sign. And so I like the time that I'd seen that, I was like, the trigger for me, or like the wake up call for me was, and I shared this with you before we jumped on here, was that I went to Kmart to try on some new. And it's funny, even too, like going into the shops to buy new clothes, that was not even a sign for me that I had put on weight.
You just seen it as like,
I just seen it as like, oh, I just need I need new clothes. After working at Woolies for like 2 months, and it's like, oh, I probably need a bigger, because bro, I end up ripping my pants. Like I end up ripping my pants. Like, oh, I probably need bigger. It's either I need bigger shorts or I need like shorts that I can actually bend in.
Yep.
And so what ended up happening was I went to Kmart. I had my clothes. Obviously walked in, and I ended up stripping my clothes off all the way to my undies. Like I was only in my undies, and I remember just turning around, and I looked at the mirror, and I was like, "Who the heck is this guy?" And the reason why I said that was because I was like, I looked at myself, I looked at my stomach. I took a photo, which I'll probably share in the future.
Yeah.
And I looked at myself and I was like, what the hell? And I immediately took a photo because I was that shocked. Like, it got to the point where I took the photo because I was like, am I dreaming?
Yeah.
And that was when I realized, like, holy snap, I'm fat. Like, I'm overweight. And then what ended up happening was, like, as I started to become more aware, like, there was moments where I was at home and I was getting ready for work, and I put my shoes on. I went to try and tie it, and I had to like go into a certain angle. And if you're any like big bopper out there, you'll know for sure, like that this is like a normal thing for big guys, and girls too. But for the big men out there, you know for sure that like one of the biggest struggles is not only just trying to tie a shoelace, but even having the oxygen to breathe, you know, in terms of like tying a shoelace.
Really? Is that bad?
It was that bad. I got to that point, and yeah, it was really playing with my with my identity. You know, I was the guy that was always going to the gym. Done 75 hard, done a live hard program.
5 a.m. guy.
5 a.m. guy too. You know, going to the gym consistently. Wouldn't say eating. I wouldn't say I was eating the right food like all the time, but I was doing it at a consistent rate.
Yeah.
You know, would have ice creams and stuff here and there. Processed foods. Sorry, bro.
I still eat it from time to time, bro. Not perfect.
And so, yeah, pretty much I went through that season and I was pretty much at my heaviest, which was 144, and I remember just weighing myself and seeing the truth, and I was like, oh, okay, how's this all gonna, like, how am I gonna, I kind of felt like disappointed, like in myself, because I let myself go that far, but it made me realize that there was a problem.
Yeah.
And I was looking back, like even looking back now through 2022, I knew that the problem that had stemmed was from home. And you know what's so crazy is that you'll find in a lot of people that if they're going through tough times, it's usually because there's something at home going on. I learned that through my previous job working as a student wellbeing support officer, like doing resilience programs for troubled kids. I don't call them troubled kids. I just call them like normal kids.
Yeah.
They're just kids that haven't really had some support, you know, growing up.
Kids with different backgrounds.
Yeah, pretty much. And like same thing. I knew straight away that there was things going on at home. They were probably being abandoned. They probably weren't being looked after. I remember one kid who came and he lied to me. He literally lied to me. He said, "Yes, sir, I got lunch." And I looked around and I was looking like, I was just watching over him. And I looked at him like, and I went up to him and I just said, "Hey, bro, do you really have food?" And he's like, "Yeah." I was like, "So what did you eat?" And he's like, "Oh, he tried to lie." And I just said, "You don't have food, do you?" And he's like, "No." And I said, like, how often how often does this happen? He's like, "Oh, pretty much every day." And I said, "Oh, how do you get food?" And he's like, "Oh, I just ask other kids."
Yeah.
So things like that. Like I know for sure that like if someone's going through some struggle, it usually stems from home. And so that was for me.
Yeah.
Like, although I had personal responsibility and personal accountability, I knew within myself that like that was a part of the reason, not the reason, but a part as to why I fell into that. So yeah, that's the story.
What were, I guess, the lessons that came from that?
I think the first lesson I had learned was that accountability is key. Yeah. So I didn't have accountability from a personal, from a like a person to person like perspective. Yep. So I didn't have someone out there that was keeping me accountable. That was one lesson I'd learned. I think now if I had someone there, like, you know, let's say something as small as like keeping me consistent on like going to the gym, because at that time, funny enough, like because I was working a lot of hours, I was saying to myself, "Oh, I'm tired and I don't have to go to the gym because I'm doing enough at work," which is true, slightly true, but not true. Like you do have the ability, like you can get in some extra, like, you know, like workouts at the gym. You can do that. It's just how willing are you to actually.
It comes down to priorities.
Exactly. And at that time, it wasn't my priority. But I'm grateful though that I didn't do that, because I look at myself now and looking at like the journey, which I'll share very soon. I guess what I've been doing lately to get myself back on track. I still have to be grateful in the fact that I went through that, because I wouldn't be where I am now. But most importantly too, it's like I actually know how it feels to carry so much weight. I'm glad that I stopped. See, that's the thing. That's another thing I'm grateful for, is that I stopped at 44.
Yeah.
144. I could have gone much more, like heavier. And so that was kind of like the lessons I learned. The first one was accountability is key, which crazy enough, I'm actually getting this year. This year, I've actually invested into a coach, like a personal trainer. And it was very humbling for me to actually invest into a personal trainer, because I feel like I can do it on my own.
Yeah.
But I'm actually investing into that from a accountability perspective. Someone out there that can, I guess, filter down all the things that I usually try and do myself, like recording like your sets and all that stuff, or trying to find the next program, and just have someone there, have someone there that you can rely on, that can keep you accountable, but also have everything, all the data set, but even just have like little things that you like, the check-ins, for example.
Yeah.
Like my personal trainer can check on me and see how I'm going, and then he can actually see what's really actually happening behind the scenes. So yeah, accountability is key, but also too, just learning about, just like another thing that I've learned from like that season was that I can actually finally understand how it really feels to be overweight. I felt like I was overweight when I was 120 kilos, but when you put on extra 20 kilos, and you get to the point where you can't bend down and tie a shoelace, there's actually a certain avenue of people that I can actually relate to, whereas before I couldn't.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are probably my lessons.
I want to jump into sharing a lesson of mine
Yeah. I'd
that
love to. What was a lesson that you learned, bro?
for me, and we've spoken about this a lot, like my relationship with my dad, my family. And for so long, I blamed or I resented him for the way that I was treated. Nothing bad, but it's like stuff that compounds over time, and it affects me mentally and my confidence. And for so long, yeah, I did blame him. I did resent him. I did have anger towards him, and I'd never felt comfortable opening up and expressing how I felt because we didn't have that relationship. But from doing a lot of internal work this year, I've come to the realization that blame and resent has no place, serves no purpose in your life. Like, what does it serve? Nothing. It just leads you down a darker path of blame and resent, and to a degree, playing victim, having that victim mentality. And from getting to understand my dad a lot more since becoming a parent myself, I think that's been a very pivotal moment from 2022, was becoming a father, because that allowed me to understand my father a lot more. And what I mean by that is, when I was a baby, I never wanted to be around my dad. Every time he would come near me or pick me up, this is what my mum told me, I would always cry and I'd always want my mum. Having a child myself, and I'm so grateful that she hasn't been like that with me, but if my daughter was to do that to me, not want essentially nothing to do with me, I would be so fucking heartbroken. And to a degree, I would resent my own child because they don't want anything to do with me. So now understanding that, I'm like, okay, this is where it all began for our relationship. And it's just compounded over time because, to a degree, I believe consciously or subconsciously, he has resented me for that, for not wanting to be around him, to have his love, to have his affection, which is funny because growing up, that's all I've kind of wanted. Like once I got past that baby stage, like I wanted that love, I wanted that affection, but I didn't quite get it because the damage per se was already done. That rift in our relationship was already created. So for me, being able to go deep, to understand that, to then also let go of it and replace it with empathy and understanding, has allowed me to turn up as a better son for my dad. And our relationship has actually improved dramatically because I'm openly expressing, okay, Dad, I love you. Like I'm giving him hugs and stuff like that, and sending him messages and communicating a lot with him. And that's just from letting go of that blame and resent. And I think I shared this with you when I did the breath work at the 3-day seminar that I went to, and the visualization that I had, and I'll share it again. So we did on the last day, it's a 3-day event. The last day we did this massive breath work. I think it was like half an hour, 45 minutes, something like that. And the vision that I had in it was I was a child, and I walked up to this man, which I didn't know at the time was my dad, but it was my dad. I grabbed his hand, and as I grabbed his hand, I shifted into the adult version of myself. And I go to him, Dad, like, I love you. I understand. Like, as a parent, you got to do the best with the tools that you have. And he didn't have many tools because he came from not a very good upbringing himself. You know, his dad neglected him. It was basically just him and his mum, and I'm not sure the relationship there, but he didn't have a really good childhood.
Yeah.
So how was he meant to be a great father, if there's even such thing as a great father, with very limited tools?
Yeah.
Because any parents out there, children don't come with instruction manuals. You just got to do the best with what you know.
Yeah.
And for me, how I see parenthood now is our obligation as parents is just to be better parents than our own. He did that. Now it's my obligation to be a better parent than he is, without passing down the traumas, the insecurities, so that we can raise strong, loving young adults that go on to have a positive impact in society. And that's the way I see parenthood now. But in that vision, I shifted into my adult version. I said, Dad, I love you. Thank you for everything that you've done and you've taught me. Even the bad things have shaped me into who I am today. But this is my time to become my own person and step into who I truly want to be. Once I did that, once I come out of that meditation, it was just like this like weird feeling. And I remember just sitting there, and at the end of it, people got opportunities to share. And they go, who wants to share? Hand straight up. I didn't want to fucking share, but for some reason, my hand went up. I got up, and the thing is, I got the video on my laptop. I haven't watched it back since. I don't know why. I got them to send me the video. I haven't watched it back, but I got up and I expressed basically everything that I've just told you here. And in the moment, like, my whole body's shaking and stuff like that. And what they said to me is, that is awesome, because that is your nervous system accepting what has happened and processing and getting rid of that blame, that resent, that trauma that you had trapped in there. That's your body telling you that, fuck, all right, you're in a way, you're shifting energy in and out of your body. I was like, wow. I felt like a totally different person. I remember the next day, I went to the beach. I wrote like 3-4 pages in my journal, sent my dad a massive message saying, Dad, I love you. This is what happened in my breath work. And man, ever since then, like, removing that trauma has allowed so much more room for love, gratitude, empathy. And as I mentioned before, you know, my relationship with my parents, especially my father, has grown so much. And I know there's a lot more growth to be had when it comes time for him to actually do his own inner work, because he has a lot of stuff that he has to deal with. And I think once he does that, our relationship will blossom even more. But for me, I think it's my role to lead by example. If I'm going out, if I'm doing the inner work myself, if I'm working on becoming the best version of myself, the best parent, the best partner, you know, he's going to see that, man, okay, if my son can do that, you know, maybe it's my time to actually start doing this stuff as well. So that's probably been a really, really big pivotal lesson and moment of 2022. Oh, I actually haven't shared that as deep as I had then. Ooh,
crazy, man.
I felt good. Like I've shared bits and pieces, but just saying it out loud like that is just like, that is a big moment. Like, people get caught up in wanting to achieve all these goals and all these, have all this success, right? But things like this, doing the inner work, having this self-awareness, getting to understand yourself, like, that is way more important and pivotal than achieving your goals. Because you can achieve all the goals you want, but if you don't even know yourself, if you're not happy with yourself, if you have all these triggers that you have no clue, like, how are you meant to turn up as the best version of yourself?
Yeah.
And it's the saying that I've said before, is like, you can read all the books, you can go to all these events, these seminars, etc., etc. But if you can't read yourself, how are you meant to grow? How are you meant to turn up as your best self? Not only for yourself, for your partner, your family, your children, your friends, your work, all that kind of stuff, unless you have the self-awareness to read yourself. So, yeah, man, that is a lot more powerful, and it's something that everyone listening needs to do, and it can start with journaling. And I mentioned before, writing has actually become a big passion of mine lately, because I've been able to dive deeper into my feelings. I write down what's been going on in my life, what am I feeling, and then I question myself, why? Why am I feeling like this? Why is this happening to me? Why am I the way that I am? Why am I getting triggered by this? And then I can go deeper again and answer those questions, because the answers, I believe, are always within. We just, all the time, our ego gets in the way, and we're like, oh, I don't want to have that scary conversation. Like you created this narrative in here. I don't want to talk to my mum about this, because she might lose her shit, or whatever the case may be. But once you have those uncomfortable conversations, man, that's where the growth is. And the pain. We love the pain.
Yeah.
Take that in.
It's like a love-hate relationship, though. I do got to be quite frank and honest. But yeah, at this time, I'm real grateful for pain, because there's so much lesson that you can learn from it. I just feel like there's a lot of people that just don't understand that you can learn a lot from the pains that you go through. But some people, it's just too painful for them to actually realize that there is so much lessons there.
And that's okay. I guess if you're self-aware to understand, like, there's so much pain here, but you don't have to try to deal with everything at once.
Yeah, just focus on one.
Yeah, focus on
one step at a time.
One thing at a time. And what I mentioned to you of something that I learned recently is focusing on your life force. And to break that down,
no. You know what? Let me break it down.
Okay. Oh yeah. I've taught you something. Let's see if you can remember.
Today. So let's see. So from what I understood is that the life force is three parts. First part being the physical, like your physical form. So that could be something like doing like physical activity, like exercise.
Yeah, it's essentially yoga, your physical body. How are you looking after it, your relationship with it?
So that's the first one. The second one is your connection with other people. And then the third one is your connection with yourself.
Yeah.
Am I correct, sir?
Yes, you are, sir.
That means I'm listening. That's me.
So yeah, when it comes to your physical, it's okay. How are you looking after yourself? Are you training? Are you eating healthy?
Yeah, eating the right types of food. Obviously, I wasn't.
Anything to do with your physical health?
Yeah.
Focus on that. That's pillar number one. Pillar number two is your relationship with others, your partner, your friends, your family, your colleagues. Are you a negative person to be around? If someone walks into the room that you're in, do they feel negative energy, or are they excited to be there?
Yeah.
Are you ignoring people? Are you not making effort to spend time with friends and family because you think that your goals or whatever you're doing is more important? Like for me, in a period of my life where I neglected my relationship because I thought I had to put all my energy into my goals. what I soon realized is, yeah, you can achieve your goals, but if you have no friends and family there at the end, is it really worth it?
Yeah. When you're in pursuit of your goals, you diminish the very people that have been celebrating you for the whole time. It's like, was it really worth it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Interesting.
definitely. So relationship with your physical self, relationship with others, and then relationship with yourself when it comes to mental and spiritual. So a big thing is journaling. Because how are you meant to build a relationship with yourself if you don't understand yourself?
Yeah.
So start with journaling, what I mentioned before, write down your feelings, ask the question why, always ask why, and keep asking why until you get to the root cause of whatever you're trying to get the answers for. Meditation, breathwork, all these kind of things that help you build that relationship, even in a way where it is all linked, right? Saying, okay, I'm building a relationship with myself. I'm going to set 1 hour here to go to the gym because that is 1 hour for me to build a relationship with myself and improve my physical health. Anyone can do that. You could be in a very dark place right now. What are 3 things you can do? You can go for a walk. You can ring a friend. You can write in a journal. That works on all 3 areas. So you shouldn't have the excuse not to work on yourself, to work on becoming a better version of you or the best version of you, because working on your life force is free. It's just up to you whether you do it or not.
Yeah.
And it's something that I'm really going to be pushing in 2023 is that, because it's so simple. And with this podcast, it's all about turning that awareness into actionable steps. You had the awareness that you're overweight. Okay, how do we lose that? What do I do? What are the steps? I have the awareness that I need to improve my relationship with my partner. Okay, how do I do that? I need to improve my fitness. Okay, how do I do that? Like, we all have awareness of the things that we need to do. And even if we don't have the awareness, through journaling, you will find it. And then it's okay, how do we take actionable steps on that?
Yeah.
So for now, start with these 3 things. And once you get them in check, it creates that foundation for you to build off the top of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, they're 3 areas I highly recommend everyone works on.
Yeah.
Where do we take this podcast now?
Maybe just share about what we're doing for 2023, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything that we're going to finish off with, like, for 2022? We can just share about 2023.
Yeah, I think we've kind of covered everything for 2022, unless there's anything else you want to share.
I think if there's only one thing I could share was just, I guess what I did to get myself back on track.
Yeah, man. So what did you do to get yourself back on track? You know, after gaining so much weight.
Even just things happening at home.
Yeah, happening at home, being in a dark space. Like, what did you do to turn your life around to be in the position that you are in now?
Yeah, so just going back to the Kmart situation. So obviously seeing that I was overweight and stuff, and the realization kicked in. I literally just said, "Oh, just start." And what I did was, obviously, I was having the awareness of like just going, like just doing something. But the real trigger for me that got me starting was just going to the gym, and not going to the gym to do like a full hour workout. But I realized that I was going back to square one, and so I was like, okay, what am I gonna do? And I shared to you the story today. It was like I literally would go in. The first session I went back after being away for I think 2 months. Yeah, 2 months away. I literally just scanned the tag, went to the treadmill, walked on for 10 minutes, and I played solitaire. I think I played 2 games of solitaire. After that 10 minutes, I literally walked off and then I went home. And like that's literally what got me to where I'm at now, which is I've just finished a 10-week program. I've been on like a strength program for a bit, and I've been doing 3 weeks of strength like workouts, and then another 3 of cardio. So I'll go to the gym, get like a 30, 45 minute walk like on, and if it's not at the gym, it's at home or like somewhere, just going for a walk. So that's kind of been like what I'm doing now. My next step is my diet, and that's why I got my personal trainer there to help me out. So yeah, that's pretty much like what I've done to get myself where I'm at now.
man, as we start to wrap up today's podcast, bro, I guess, do you have any themes, any intentions moving into 2023?
I've got 3. The first one is experience. I don't just want to be more present this year. I want to experience more things. And cool thing is, me and Grace going on a cruise at the end of this month. So that's kind of be like the first stepping stone towards being more like, more present, but also just experiencing more. I think the past 2 years, especially during COVID, the COVID lockdown, we didn't really get to experience much. Everything was all digitalized, like we were doing things on Zoom. And so that's the first thing, was just experience. I want to experience more things. Go out there, might even experience the bush. That was one thing I was thinking about as I go in the country. So that's my intention this year. The second thing is I actually want to build my coaching business. People don't know, Nick is my one of my coaching clients. So grateful,
bro.
Grateful, and I want to be more intentional with that too. The second one, and the third one for this year is I want to give more. Even though I'm a giver, I know that for sure for myself, but I just want to give more because I already know that the secret to living is giving.
Yes.
So I don't know. That's something that really keeps me. It kind of brings me back to alignment. Is giving. So those are my 3. Experiencing more, whether it's like going on a cruise or going out in the outback, or kind of like living in the moment. Focusing on my coaching business and giving more.
Awesome, bro. Yeah.
How about you?
Ever since you told me to give, it feels good, bro, just to be able to give back. And even me just sending some free merch to some people, they're super grateful for it. And it's like, wow, I could do that.
Yeah.
I could have an impact on someone's life and make them feel more connected to the mission and the journey that I'm creating here. So, yeah, man, the secret to living is giving, eh?
Yeah. So, that's my intention. How about you, bro? I'd love to know from you, man. What's your intention for 2023?
So, I've got 2 main ones.
Yes, talk to us.
Abundance and health.
Okay.
Abundance when it comes to the life that I live, the experiences, the people that I'm surrounded, money. Money is going to be a big focus this year, and really improving my financial situations, community when it comes to growing the podcast, just abundance in life, and then health, because I feel like in 2022 my health was pretty
all over the place.
All over the place.
Up and down, bro. Don't worry.
Fucking sick. Then I was fit. Then I got injured, and it's just like all over the place. So for me, focusing on my health, and not just my physical, but mind, body, spirit, all of that is really a huge focus moving into this year, bro. But dude, as we start to wrap up, because I know you got to head off, we could probably speak for hours. And if I had brought my phone around with me and press record, this would be a 5-hour podcast. But bro, I appreciate you, making the trip out here, spending half a day with me, bro. It's been awesome, and I always look forward to catching up with you, bro. So grateful.
Grateful, man. Before we finish up, just want to say thank you for allowing me to have your time too. I enjoyed it also, and I think the most important thing I've been really grateful for is this right here. I was actually talking to Grace about it. I was like, one thing I'm really excited for to see is this, because it was something that we were working on in terms of accountability stuff for our coaching sessions, and it's amazing to see the fruits of your labor, and it's cool to see that what you had envisioned actually come into reality. So, bro, thank you, man. Thank you for allowing me to be here, and thank you for allowing me to jump into what is my 3rd podcast episode.
Appreciate it, bro. I'll see you in 12 months' time.
Yeah. Grateful, bro.
Let's go.